In 1939, a single letter changed the course of human history. It warned of a weapon so powerful it could destroy entire nations. It began in Nazi Germany. Scientists Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann had done the unthinkable. They had split the atom. Physicists Leo Szilard and Eugene Wigner realized the terrifying implications. If Hitler got the bomb first, the world was lost. They turned to the world's most famous scientist, Albert Einstein. Together, they drafted a warning to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The letter spoke of extremely powerful bombs and the urgent need for the United States to secure its own supply of uranium. Roosevelt's initial response was cautious, granting just $6,000. But the seeds of the greatest secret project in history had been sown. The race for the atomic bomb had officially begun. In the shadows, the Manhattan Project was about to be born. While the American effort stalled in early bureaucracy, halfway across the Atlantic, the pace was accelerating. In a London under siege, two physicists were about to provide the scientific roadmap the world desperately needed. Otto Frisch and Rudolf Peierls made a startling discovery. A bomb didn't need tons of uranium. It needed only a few kilograms. Their memorandum was the first technical proof that an atomic weapon was not just theoretical, but terrifyingly feasible. This led to the creation of the MAUD Committee. By July 1941, they concluded that a bomb could be built within 2 years. The report was shared with the U.S. government. It was the spark that turned a small research project into a massive military priority. The roadmap was clear. Now, the Americans had to build it. The Manhattan Project was about to take its final form. By June 1942, the atomic dream needed a military machine. The project was formally organized under the Army Corps of Engineers. On September 17th, leadership fell to a man who lived to build, Colonel Leslie R. Groves, the man who had just finished the Pentagon. Within 2 days, Groves secured over 1,200 tons of high-grade uranium ore from the Belgian Congo. He wasted no time. He selected a remote site in Tennessee, Oak Ridge, a massive valley that would soon house the largest industrial complex on Earth. Promoted to Brigadier General, Groves now had the authority to command the nation's top scientific minds. He was the project's iron fist. The Manhattan Engineer District was born. What began as a theory was now becoming an industrial giant hidden from the world. The pieces were in place. The scientists had their leader, and the project had its home. Now, they needed a laboratory. With industrial sites secured, the project needed a brain. General Groves began a search for a secret laboratory far from any prying eyes. In October 1942, Groves made a controversial choice. Theoretical physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, a man of immense intellectual power, but no experience leading a project of this scale. Together, they selected a remote mesa at Los Alamos, a site known to the local boys as a ranch school. It was about to become the most important secret in the world. Project Y was born. Overnight, the quiet mesa was transformed into a high-pressure scientific think tank, housing the world's greatest Nobel laureates. Oppenheimer gathered the brightest minds. Under total secrecy, they worked to solve the impossible math of the atomic bomb, driven by the fear that time was running out. For those at Los Alamos, life was a paradox. A small, vibrant community living behind high-security gates, cut off from the rest of the world. The scientific engine was now running at full speed. But while they theorized in the mountains, a team in Chicago was about to prove it could actually work. While the desert mesa grew, a critical secret was hidden in plain sight, beneath the bleachers of a university football field in Chicago. Leading the effort was Enrico Fermi. His mission: to achieve the first self-sustaining controlled nuclear chain reaction in history. They built a pile of 6 tons of uranium and 400 tons of graphite, a primitive, dangerous lattice of pure scientific theory. On December 2, 1942, the world held its breath. Fermi gave the order to withdraw the final control rod. The counters clicked faster and faster. For 28 minutes, the team monitored the world's first nuclear fire. It worked. A coded message was sent to Washington. The Italian navigator has landed. Nuclear energy had been tamed. The door to the atomic age was now wide open. But to build a weapon, they would need an industry on a scale the world had never seen. Fermi had proven it could work. But to build a bomb, they needed enriched uranium on a scale never before imagined. In the secret city of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, massive facilities rose from the mud. The first was Y-12. Inside Y-12, Ernest Lawrence's calatrons used powerful magnets to separate rare uranium-235 from its more stable cousin. Then came K-25, a mile-long gaseous diffusion plant, so vast it was the largest building in the world. Thousands of young women, the Calitron girls, operated complex machinery, never knowing they were enriching fuel for an atomic weapon. Security was absolute. Billboards reminded workers that their silence was a weapon of war. No one knew the true goal. Oak Ridge was an industrial miracle, but uranium was only half the story. In the Pacific Northwest, a new element was being born. Uranium was only half the equation. To build the world's first atomic arsenal, the project needed a second, more powerful fuel: plutonium. In the desert of Washington State at Site W, they built a machine like no other, the B reactor, the world's first full-scale plutonium production plant. Spanning hundreds of square miles, Hanford became a factory for an element that barely existed in nature, a masterpiece of industrial engineering. But soon after startup, the reactor began to die. A mysterious poison was quenching the nuclear fire, threatening the entire project. Physicist Chen-Xiong Wu provided the key. Her research on Xenon-135 allowed the team to identify and overcome the reactor's poisoning. The crisis was averted. Hanford began churning out the fuel for the most destructive weapon in history. The first shipments were ready. The fuel was ready. But at Los Alamos, the scientists were facing a design crisis that threatened to derail everything. By 1944, Los Alamos was in crisis. The original plan for the plutonium bomb, the gun-type Thin Man, was fundamentally flawed. The plutonium produced in reactors was too unstable. It would pre-detonate, fizzling out before the explosion could reach its full power. Oppenheimer made a desperate gamble. He pivoted the entire laboratory to a radical new design: implosion, squeezing a core with high explosives. This new design, dubbed Fat Man, was so complex and unproven that it would require a full-scale test to ensure it worked. Meanwhile, the uranium-fueled Little Boy was deemed so reliable it wouldn't even be tested before its use in war. The pressure was immense. As the war in Europe drew to a close, the race to build the first nuclear weapon entered its final, most dangerous phase. The designs were finalized. The fuels were ready. Now, they would put their creation to the ultimate test in the New Mexico desert. While the Americans and British built the bomb, a third power was watching from the shadows. The Soviet Union's intelligence operation, Enormos. The most devastating mole was Klaus Fuchs. At the heart of Los Alamos, he funneled calculations and blueprints for the Fat Man bomb directly to Moscow. 19-year-old prodigy Theodore Hall provided a second set of blueprints. He believed a U.S. nuclear monopoly would be dangerous for the world. In the industrial plants of Oak Ridge, George Koval stole the secret recipe for the detonator. He was the only trained intelligence officer to penetrate the production sites. Machinist David Greenglass sketched the bomb's interior. His notes were funneled through a network of couriers, including Harry Gold and the Rosenbergs. The network's discovery led to the execution of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. The world was beginning to realize that the secret of the bomb had already been lost. The spies accelerated the Soviet bomb by years. The nuclear arms race was born before the first American bomb was even tested. July 16, 1945, 5:29 a.m. In the Jornada del Muerto desert, years of scientific theory were about to meet physical reality. The countdown reached its final seconds. In bunkers miles away, the brightest minds on Earth waited in a silence that felt like an eternity. Then, a flash brighter than 1,000 suns. The gadget detonated with the force of 18,000 tons of TNT. The shockwaves shook the Earth. The steel tower was vaporized instantly. For the first time, man had unleashed the power of the sun. The heat was so intense it turned the desert sand into green glass. It was named Trinitite, a permanent scar on the landscape. Observing the mushroom cloud, Oppenheimer recalled the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The success of Trinity meant the US now possessed a weapon that could end the war. The world would never be the same again. August 6, 1945. The B-29 Enola Gay carried its singular, devastating cargo toward Hiroshima. The age of nuclear warfare had arrived. In an instant, Little Boy changed everything. An estimated 80,000 people were lost in a flash, brighter than any fireman had ever seen. 3 days later, Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki. The project's two creative paths had both reached their terrifying conclusion. On August 15th, Japan announced its surrender. The Second World War was over, ended by a project hidden in the shadows. The Manhattan Project officially dissolved in 1946. Its secrets were shared with the world, and its power was handed to civilian control. The legacy was complex. It brought the threat of nuclear annihilation, but also the promise of nearly limitless energy. The world was reborn, and a new era of global risk was ushered in. The journey that began with a single letter had reached the stars. The secret project had changed the course of human destiny forever. 10 chapters of a story that redefined humanity. From a single warning letter to a flash that shook the world, the Manhattan Project remains the most significant undertaking in history. It was a triumph of scientific genius and industrial might. Over 100,000 people working in the shadows, all towards a goal they could barely fathom. But it was also a burden. It forced the world to confront the terrifying reality of its own destruction, a dilemma that continues to haunt us today. The legacy of the secret project is all around us. In the power that lights our cities and the medicine that saves our lives. The atomic age was born in fire, but its future is still being written. We have harnessed the power of the sun. Now the choice of how we use it belongs to us all. The secret project is over. The journey of the atom continues.